And hello everybody, welcome back to British Stand, guys. We've got a bit of breaking news for you this afternoon as a horrifying axe attack at a Christian New Year parade in northern Iraq has left several injured after a man shouting Islamic slogans launched a violent rampage through the crowd. As always, guys, we will break down this horrific story that has come out on this New Year parade. But as always, guys, you do make these live streams, so do get involved in the live chat. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more breaking news stories from across Europe and the rest of the world. So, as stated, thousands had gathered in Duhok on Tuesday to celebrate Akatu, the Assyrian New Year, waving flags and donning colourful traditional dresses. However, of course, the joyful celebration quickly descended into chaos when a lone attacker stormed the parade singing an axe and shouting Islamic State. The Islamic State remains. 3 people were wounded in the frenzied assault, including a 17-year-old boy and a 75-year-old woman, both suffering skull fractures. A member of the local security forces who had been operating a surveillance drone was also injured. Footage circulating online shows the attacker pinned to the pavement by brave onlookers as he continued to shout jihadist slogans. Now, of course, this is absolutely terrifying, the scenes out in Iraq, and now there's more footage, of course, of the individual being put into the back of what looks like a lorry. However, despite the footage that has circulated and the video evidence that has circulated online following this attack, the authorities have not yet released the attacker's identity. All 3 victims were rushed to hospital and are said to be in critical condition at the time of recording. Now, the teenage victim, Fadi, had travelled to the parade with friends and had been sharing photos of the festivities shortly before being attacked. At the hospital, his mother has said, "We are already attacked and displaced by ISIS, and today we faced a terrorist attack at a place we came to for shelter." Another victim, 75-year-old Yonya Kushba, was out shopping with her daughter near the parade when the attacker struck. Recalling the horror, daughter Janet Aprem said, "He was running at us with an axe. He hit with my mother and I ran when she fell. He had already attacked a young man who was bleeding in the street." Both families had been displaced by the violence, one from Baghdad, the other from areas overrun by ISIS in 2014, highlighting the repeated trauma endured by Iraq's Assyrian Christian community. In the wake of the horror attack, the face a fresh wave of online hate speech. Now, this, of course, is terrifying in itself, and in fact, I've got some more images of the actual parade itself. But as stated, a day where they were celebrating Christian New Year, a day where they had all come together in this Christian parade and were supposed to be protected and supposed to be safe, but had a lunatic, one Islamic lunatic, cutting around with an axe and trying to slaughter people, which is absolutely horrifying to see in itself. Now, again, this is the only information that we've currently got with regard to this attack, but it follows on from a lot of chaos that has happened across the globe recently, especially towards Christians around the world. There's been a lot of terror. I mean, you can look in different parts of the world. You're seeing lots of stuff happening in Africa, but certainly in Iraq at this moment in time is something that to be fair, I spoke to an Iraqi guy actually 2 days ago and actually picked his brains on the situations that were currently ongoing at this time. And the guy was an Islamic guy, a very nice guy actually, and we were chatting away about what was going on in Iraq, because the mainstream media really tell a different picture about Iraq as a war-torn country, somewhere that is completely blown to bits, and there is nothing really going on. Again, you probably think about Iraq, and there's a hell of a lot of Christians that actually live there. Sometimes you think Iraq is an Islamic nation, and just an Islamic nation in itself, but there's a lot of Christians that actually live there. And when I was speaking to this individual 2 days ago, he actually said that the people there very much live in harmony, and actually showed me a lot of pictures and video footage of Iraq nowadays. As stated, you probably have views and pictures on your thoughts of a war-torn country and thinking that the place is displaced and all of these kind of things. But actually, it's kind of thriving a lot recently. A lot of like new builds. I mean, Google it for yourself. You will start to see what Iraq is actually looking like right now. But again, we actually had this conversation, funnily enough, 2 days ago, literally 2 days ago about the state. And like I said, it's a great place at this moment in time, and a lot of people living in harmony, which was good to hear on that sort of thing. But of course, a huge Islamic presence within Iraq, and again, horrific scenes at this Christian New Year festival, where a lone axeman chanting Islamic State, cutting around and trying to slaughter people. Again, the guy has been apprehended, the guy has been arrested, but yet we don't really have too much information with regard to who he is and what he was doing, if this was the sort of motive. When we know what the motive of the attack was, it's clear to see, especially if it's from the Islamic State and he's chanting Islamic State slogans, but quite frankly, really shocking to see. But at the time of recording, no one has been killed, and probably could have been a hell of a lot worse if this individual wasn't put down and of course held until the authorities had followed. But yeah, quite shocking scenes, and again, we did have a bit of video footage, but unfortunately can't show it on YouTube because they don't like a little bit of being held down, or an individual being held down, and again, the video would probably be taken down. So that is currently what we've got, guys. 3 people injured after a lone axeman in a Christian festival in northern Iraq, and it was of course an Islamic attack, which is truly shocking to see. But guys, let's go through the live chat. Let's take some of your reaction. Do let me know your thoughts on this down there in the comment section below. Billy Mandalay says, motive, just follow the book, or following his book. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, as I said, with Iraq itself, again, I can see it because our mainstream media do a very good job at painting that picture. And actually, these kind of things don't so much necessarily happen. It's kind of out of the ordinary, I suppose, nowadays. As stated, they kind of live in harmony within there. You know, ISIS aren't cutting about as they used to do back in sort of 2014, or certainly in a different area. Again, it's so weird because I had this conversation literally the other day, 2 days ago, with an Iraqi individual, and he really educated me on it because I was none the wiser due to our sort of the information that we're given with regard to Iraq. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty shocking, especially following that conversation that I actually had heard. But yeah, a lone attacker trying to slaughter people at a Christian festival. So the Christians again, once again, being attacked. Aldo says, hi Dan mate, good to see. Lovely name there, Aldo. I know that name. Of course I do. I know. Big supporter is Bill. Big supporter, I wouldn't say supporter. He supported me very much. A lot, Aldo, in terms of he knows my history. And to be fair, one of the subscribers from my early days covering Rangers Football Club, that of course subscribed here as well. So good to see you, Aldo. Love to see it. Richard says it's been going good for 1,500 years. Take some more comments here, guys. John Johnson says, it comes to something when you can't walk the streets of Iraq in safety. No, but as I said, it's something that you probably should look into, especially with Iraq. I mean, it's quite hard to despite the information we're given with regard to Iraq. But funnily enough, actually, I've been hearing so much about Iraq recently, not just from that individual himself, but actually my Instagram reels. I've started to see some reels from like people traveling there and actually seeing some of the buildings that are there and built up. I just had some weird programmed mind into it that it was just obliterated. It was just completely, worn, torn, like kind of the images that you think of back in the sort of 2003 with the invasion and all of these kind of things. That's kind of my when I think of Iraq, that's kind of what I think about. But actually, it's come on leaps and bounds since then. And another thing that I didn't really know too much about was the large Christian population that were actually there. And again, most of them live in harmony. But for some individuals and some people, they don't want that. They don't want that at all. Jenny says, Dan, you can get away with showing more than you realise on YouTube nowadays. Ask Tusi. Yeah, I'm in contact with Tusi now and then with regard to these things. We do come into the same sort of issues with footage. But yeah, it can be a bit of a problem. It is a bit of a problem. Yeah, there are a little more lenient than sort of Facebook and Instagram, but you know, I can't. They have a big thing with blood, so you can't really show blood. That's a huge problem in YouTube's eyes, and this guy is on the floor and there's blood. He's not dead or anything like that, but he's being held down by people from the Christian festival, and there's blood there. So that's the sort of no-no of YouTube that you can't do. They've got some certain criterias that they don't like you to show, and blood is certainly one of those things, or sort of dismantled body parts and all these kind of things. But blood was the big no-no. Janet says, why won't they leave everyone to live in peace? Why do they force there be? Well, that's the age-old question. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? I mean, Iraq is flourishing at this moment in time. It certainly looks like that. Anyway, and speaking to people that are actually from the country, it certainly looks that way. It certainly looks like everybody's kind of living in harmony. And actually, what I would say from the Islamic man that I spoke to yesterday, 2 days ago, sorry, is that he said, what was the, I need to try and quote him the correct way. I said, my friend asked him, how is it with the Christians and the Islamists out there, the Muslims out there as a thing? He said, oh, they're like our grandfathers, almost like quoting as if there was more for the older generation that there were the Christians. But yeah, we live perfectly. There's so much respect towards them because they're like the grandfathers of the nation. They're like the owners of the country as such. Again, don't quote me word for word, but that's what I remember. I had a beer in hand as we were speaking about it. But I'm sure, yeah, from what I got from the conversation, a guy that lives there, Islamic man, said they live in complete harmony, and a lot of people respect the Christians that are there. But it's the few that, as you see there with the Islamic State, there's sort of people there going on lone attacks that causing the massive amounts of problems. For those of you just tuning in, it was a Christian festival in northern Iraq where a lone axeman infiltrated the celebrations on their sort of Christian New Year. And again, heavy celebrations, lots of Christians, of course, at the festival, and one axeman cutting around trying to cause terror, shouting Islamic State, Islamic State, Islamic State before being apprehended. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll leave it there. Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below with regard to this shocking story and this horrific story that is coming out of northern Iraq. Do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you